Good evening, everyone. The time is 7 p.m. and I will now call this initial meeting of the Strategic Capital Improvements Committee to order. So as the first selectman, I call this special meeting to order. I'm going to run through the agenda until that point where we get a chair, at which point I will turn over the duties of the meeting to a new chair. So that'll be coming up in a little bit. But before we get to that, the next item on the agenda, well, first, I just want to say thank you to everyone here and everyone watching and everyone in the audience. It's a cold, wet, rainy Wednesday night in Portland, and everyone here has better places that they could be right now. So I want to thank all of you for coming, volunteering your time, and watching if you're in the audience or with us virtually. So it's a testament to the community that we live in that people are passionate and care about the future of Portland Public Schools. So I want to thank you all. So why don't we start off with a roll call and an introduction of members. So I'll go around. First we have Michael Pelton.
Yeah, Mike Pelton, member of the Portland community for 24 years, previous Board of Education member, current Board of Selectmen member. Happy to be here.
All right. Brett Herzog-Bukowski.
Yep, Brett Bukowski, I'm a social studies teacher at West Haven, down in West Haven. I teach at Notre Dame High School. I've been in town for 10 years. I've got two kids, one at Gildersleeve and one will be at Valley View soon. And I'm also happy to be here. Thank you.
Jen Martinez.
I'm Jen Martinez. I have lived in town for about 9.5 years. I'm a teacher at 4th grade at Gildersleeve, and I'm also a parent of one child in 5th grade and one child in 6th grade.
Darcy.
I'm Darcy Farmley. I've been in Portland 12 years now. I've worked at Valley View for 3 years. I just got a new job for occupational therapy clinic where we do OT, PT, and speech. I run the PTOs for Gildersleeve and Biz. I help run the Cub Scouts in town. I'm very happy to be here.
Thank you. Bob.
Hi, Bob Shea, Director of Facilities for the Board of Education. Been here, I took over for Carl a few years ago, so I've been here for 2. I was the Public Works Director for 4. In town, I've been here 30 years, and I was the Fire Chief for 20 of those years. So I'm happy to be here to help move this forward.
Thank you.
Carl Johnson. I've lived in Portland all my life. I've worked for the town of Portland for 42 years. I retired in 2022 as the Director of Facilities and Grounds for the Board of Ed. Before that, I was the Supervisor of Grounds Maintenance for the town for 30 years.
Chris Dickman. I've been in town since 98. I had 2 kids go through school in Portland. First committee I'm going to be on for the town. I am an owner of construction companies.
Thank you.
Ben served. I've served about 12 years on the ZBA, about 7 years on the Board of Education, approximately 4 years on the Board of Selectmen. I'm a father of 5 kids that are currently in the Portland school system.
Nice.
I own multiple businesses in the town. I like to donate my time back to the community. And I've been here my whole life, 49 years.
Great. Well,
I'm Laurel Steinhauser. I've been in town, I think, about 10 years. I am the program manager for a small charitable foundation, and I have 3 kids in the Portland schools, and I chair the Portland Board of Education.
thank you. And Charles, do you want to?
Sure, I'm Charles Britton. I'm the superintendent. This is my 5th year as your superintendent. Before that, I was here for 3 years as your director of curriculum, instruction, and technology.
Great. And I'm Ryan Curley, currently first selectman. As you know, I will be transitioning out of this role at the end of the year. But I will be in town and I will be around to answer questions, help with the transition and all of that. But for now, today, I wanted to get this started to discuss this committee's responsibilities as the Board of Selectmen approved a resolution creating this committee and really how this came about. And so this came about, as you all know, we had a referendum that coincided with the presidential election. That referendum did not go forward. And So everyone is in agreement that we have to do something with our schools. And so the sentiment that we received from the feedback in town was that a $33 million price tag was likely too much for the taxpayers in town. But we got to spend money and we have to do it wisely. And so that's why you are all here. The good news is we have a lot of data. We have a lot of data existing from Friar Architecture and then a Sightlines report before that. We also have a report from a committee that was charged with exploring Gildersleeve and Brownstone if they were to be decommissioned as schools. I believe Dr. Britton had shared those all with you. So you should have those in your files already. I mean, I don't need to tell Carl, who is here, for the Sightlines, and Bob, who is here for the Friar, working and are intimately familiar with those documents and the needs of our schools. It's an extensive list. But the reason why this is called strategic capital improvements is because we need to maximize taxpayer dollars and extend and get as much bang for the buck as we can, I believe. And so I think one of the things that this committee needs to do early on is decide a dollar threshold that you feel the town would be comfortable putting to referendum. And now you have to also, and we'll have Mike Serrano from Friar Architecture at future meetings, because he's going to be helpful, particularly with state reimbursement. So there's a dollar amount that I think the town would be comfortable in bonding. And then we're hoping to leverage those dollars further with a state reimbursement. And so, with Mike's help, we're going to be able to do that. And hopefully, let's say I'm going to throw out a $25 million bond, maybe we can get 7 million reimbursed or something. So you can get a $32 million project, something like that. I don't have any numbers. Or the other thing that the committee charged you all with was exploring the option of decommissioning an elementary school or a school. In talking with Dr. Britton, it seems as though there's two options as far as that is concerned. I know the question on the ballot in November was a closed Gildersleeve. Now, it seems logistically that option is off the table for this. If you're going to close a school, and just correct me if I'm wrong, it's either Brownstone or Valley View because of space issues. Is that correct? Or is
Maybe, we have to unpack that.
Okay.
There's maybe, it depends what you want to do with sixth grade.
Okay.
So you have to consider it, if you move sixth grade, that relieves some of those space issues. If you keep sixth grade in the current configuration, that complicates things. So the answer is yes, depending on where their swing grades
Okay.
might go.
That's good. So what I'm hearing is all options are on the table
Right.
for you. And so that's the good news. The bad news is you have to work quickly, because our goal is to have this on a ballot in May to coincide with the budget referendum vote. That's the goal. I think it's a lofty target. I mean, I think we can do it. But we have to move quickly, and there's really not a ton of time to waste. In order to do that, I would strongly suggest we really have to have everything kind of buttoned up by the end of March in order to hit those timelines, in order to get the ballots, the meetings that are required for this. It's a lengthy process. So realistically, after this, and the new chair will be discussing the committee meeting dates. And again, I won't be a part of that in this role. There'll be a new first selectman who will be an ex officio member. That's Sean Manning, who's here in the audience. He will be, as Dr. Britton to assist. But I'll be here to support however I can as far as, guidance. I'm around for 6 months to help with the transition. And so that will coincide with this committee's charge. So, that's really I would say by the end of March is really what you guys want to work with. Does anybody, would you suggest otherwise, Charles, or do you want to?
I agree with, we definitely need an aggressive schedule of meetings. I think we need, understanding the holidays are coming up into December, once a chair is chosen, I think we need to look at our calendars and whether it's 1 or 2 meetings a week right through the end of February, or at least halfway through February, because we have to move quick, because we have to get in touch with bond council and, David Eisenthal and town planners. We have to engage a lot of other people. It could be done. I also think I'd be worried about having the bonding referendum the exact same date as the budget referendum, because depending on what we do, we might be budgeting differently for next year. I mean, if we did close a school next year, that budget would be, the budget that my business manager and I would present to the Board of Education would be different than the one if we kept all 3 schools open, right? So, whether it's, a bonding referendum in April, and then, depending on that, I mean, here, what am I doing? Stephanie is, I know, watching and shaking her head. We're building 2 budgets, right? One ready to go if we decide to decommission a school in September, and one ready to go if we do not, right? Also, we can tell you that if we did decommission a school in September, I know our teachers and our school leaders, I see Jen shaking her head, are gonna wanna know, because people have to pack, and we have a lot of work to do over June and the summer to get ready for that in September. Again, it can be done. I'm confident we can move expeditiously, but the sooner we have a definitive plan for that, the better. And May's getting late into the spring. It's doable. It's just.
Can I ask a question? Is there a reason why we're trying to get it on May?
Sure.
Is there not, if we make this plan and we do put it on the May referendum, could it be pushed further than happening in September? Like, I understand Jen sitting here being like, oh my goodness, as an educator, but I also sit here as a parent and not knowing. I mean, we had a lot of staff leave last year, and a lot of things changed. Whether it was based on how this vote was going to go this year or not, but to have that happen again 2 years in a row is a lot for our little school community to have that much change in such a short amount of, that's a lot of variables we're holding up in the air until May, when school is done in June. And just packing up a classroom at the end of June to stay in the same school, to stay in the same grade, to think about moving schools, moving grades, moving children, moving all of that, that's putting a lot on staff, that's putting a lot on custodians, that's putting a lot on the facilities team in general. So I'm just curious if putting it on May means if we put it there on May, it's going to happen in September, or does that timeline get pushed?
So this committee can recommend whatever it wants. My personal recommendation would be that any decommissioning would not happen in 2025, and you push that out a year just for practicality sake. I mean, you have a budget process, as Charles is mentioning. The budget is set by charter. It's specific dates throughout. The first selectman presents a budget to the town on March 1st, and then there's public hearings, there's Board of Selectmen deliberations. And then by charter, the first Monday in May is our annual town meeting, and then the second Monday in May is the budget referendum. I mean, and that's set in stone. So if trying to do a school bonding referendum vote on top of that separately in April, there's no way. I mean, not to mention you have to have a 20% voter turnout by the town charter in order for that vote to be valid. So the reason why I was thinking the best case scenario would be May was because it coincides with the budget. People are already going, and if you can throw in a school referendum, that'll get that 20%. I guarantee it, especially if we can get some help with signs. I don't know if anybody knows that. So that's the plan that I think, and the other thing, my other concern, we could hold off. You could wait till November and put it with the municipal election. The problem with that is I really would recommend that this not be a political, we're all here. Nobody knows what party anybody's in. And it shouldn't be that way at the polls. I don't want it to become a Democrat or Republican issue in November. So that's where May kind of came in. we can do whatever we want, you know, but those are my recommendations, and so.
Can I
Yeah.
add to that too, that the other factor, Darcy, in this, the haste is that, our grant application to the state is due at the end of June. If we wait until after June to vote, then we're talking about not being able to submit, an application, a grant application to the state until June of 2026. We have to have a vote because it's not a federal election year. We have to have a referendum passed in our community before we can submit our grant application. We also know that there's very little likelihood that our reimbursement rate from the state is going to go up at this point. Chances are it's only going to go down. So the hurry is that we will get less money the longer we wait.
Understood. No,
Thank you.
That's fine. I think it was more my question that even if we're voting on this in May, it doesn't necessarily mean that it will start that following September.
No, that's critical. You have 14 months of blueprints and designing after we figure out what the number is. So the key is exactly what Ryan has said. We need to come up with a number that we're comfortable with so that we can put on paper what we can design and what we can do with that money. And then once that's complete, I don't see anything happening this year. We're certainly not gonna, wouldn't recommend closing a school while we're doing design, because we have some difficult tasks ahead of us to be able to house additional cars, staff, and things at some of the schools that may be taking on the role of other additional class.
Right.
We're gonna have to work on those, and we'll have to schedule that. So, yeah, I agree. I think it's gonna be another year before, boots are on the ground. So we need to get that number, and we need to figure out where we're gonna go, so that that design process, which could take some time for schools that we haven't looked at in depth, is gonna be a big part of what the state is gonna need to see to certify what we do.
So, anybody else have anything on this? Because this is an open discussion too, with all committee members.
Just for clarification, so it looks like it puts it back to pushing to get things as close to as March as possible to get stuff onto a ballot by May, so that something in the next, not to be started by the fall, but it'll be some things by May. There's not going to be a separate vote in your idea world.
And
By-
practically, by the charter, it
Still
just
seems challenging.
20% is it's a lofty, typically for budget referendums, we're lucky if I think we get 10%.
But a lot of the legwork was done already, and you said there that the Friar contract is extended.
Correct.
Part of that contract is extended, so we have some aid from them.
Yes, yeah, Joe signed that
And then
extension
that whole
yesterday.
table over there are all experts in their field too, so.
And that's what we're counting on. We're counting on.
Yeah.
No pressure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got this. Bob.
So. If no one else has anything on the timeline and the charge, I think you're all comfortable with that, so then we'll move on then to item 4 on the agenda, and that's nominations and election of a chairperson. And so I believe there may be a nomination.
Yeah, I would like to nominate Carl Johnson to serve as chair.
I'll
He's
second that.
still willing.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded.
Yeah, sorry, Sharon, I nominated Carl Johnson to serve as chair.
I seconded it. Ben.
We should bring Sharon up a little.
Yeah, Sharon, if you'd like to come up further, you feel free. Ah, gotcha. Okay, thanks. Next time. So, okay. So a motion's been made and seconded. Are there any other nominations? Okay, I'll call for any discussion. I just want to say thank you to Carl for willing, for your willingness to serve as chair. I think I know you'll do a terrific job, and I really appreciate that. All right, so no other nominations. We'll see all those in favor.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstention? Motion carries unanimously. You are the chair, sir. Would you like to come up? Claim your throne?
Got my gavel over there if anybody gets rowdy.
Okay, I guess the next thing would be we have to set some meetings, right?
That's right.
So. Let me just bring my book. What is, so you have Board of Ed meetings on Tuesday nights and select meetings on Wednesdays, right?
Yep.
So does anybody have a good thought on, what night of the week?
Thursday night.
What's that?
Thursday night.
Thursday night? Okay, and you did say something maybe about, so we could start, my thought is this, we start with Thursday nights if or whatever, a night a week, and if it looks like we have to push. Maybe we add, maybe a Monday night or something like that, since the other nights are kind of taken. How does the committee feel about that?
Have library board meetings on the third Thursday of the month, but other than that, can be available on Thursdays.
Did anyone check just for if the room here is open? I feel like this is a good meeting location for everyone, so we'd like to, I think it's important to have all the meetings recorded, just like they're on Zoom right now, so there will be a public comment. And then they're also recorded so people can watch them live on YouTube and then go back and watch them. So I feel like it's important to continue that and to have that record of these meetings. So
I agree.
I know it's getting close to Christmas, but would you like to try next Thursday night, the 19th? Or is that too close and skip and move on after the holidays?
I think we should do it if we can. The more we can get together before.
Is it possible we could do an earlier? I have a 7 o'clock meeting that night, but if we were to meet at
It's either that or tomorrow.
5:30 or 6.
Okay,
I'm just throwing it out.
but that's probably too quick to get something
Oh, the agenda.
agenda.
that is true. Yeah, you can't do that.
Can we do 5 o'clock on the 19th? I know some of you come from West Haven.
5 is preferred. I have a meeting on the third Thursday as well at the church.
Is that okay with us to do meetings that early? Right.
You can do, yeah, you
Okay.
can set a calendar. I mean, I would recommend that you set a calendar that is the same time and the same place. Like if it's on a Thursday, you can set whatever you want now. And so if we want to adjust it.
Do it.
Yeah, I mean, as far as a calendar goes, a regular calendar, you would want to vote on I think it's good
Yeah.
to, maybe have a special meeting next week at 5 o'clock.
Okay.
But then
Yeah.
beginning in January, you would have a standing
Yeah.
meeting on each Thursday at 6:30 or 7 or 6, whatever time you guys want
Mhm.
to meet. And then that would be your calendar and then because we have to get those dates to the town clerk so we can post the calendar, and then they become regular meetings. And then that way, if you want to change the agenda at a regular meeting, like tonight, we can't change the agenda, it's a special meeting.
Right.
But that's why you'd want to get a set schedule, and it's easier for the town to follow, and you guys will know when the meetings are.
I would like to make a recommendation that Thursday, December 19th at 5 o'clock for our initial meeting. All those in favor? Are you okay with that?
Yeah.
We're good.
We're good?
With appreciation.
Okay.
Time.
The earlier
Yeah, I can
time
make
is
it.
easier.
Okay, next Thursday.
Here.
Here, 5 PM. And then we set the other dates tonight then too?
Yeah.
Or no? Yeah, okay. So if we're gonna do Thursdays, then we won't obviously do it on the 26th. We could do Thursday the 2nd,
Second.
Now, those we want to go at a different time, Brian?
I would,
7 p.m.
if we can, like 6.
Oh, 6.
6 is good.
6:37. Those are your like core times.
Is 6 o'clock okay for everybody?
We can run later if we need to.
And if somebody can't make it on time, you can come late, you know, but yeah.
Okay, so let's set our meetings for every week on Thursday at 6 p.m. here in the high school library.
You got it.
And we'll set those right now through the end of March. Does that work?
That's
Works.
Would you like to set a rough agenda for the next meeting, like goals that put on, or how do you want to go about that? Like,
We can talk, maybe we'll talk about this after we get the meeting, things you guys we can come up with a list of stuff, whether we need to pull stuff from Philip or Bob or anybody.
Charles.
Charles, I'm sorry.
Blame him because he's not here.
I'm sorry, I apologize for that. So every Thursday at, what we say, 6
o'clock.
Thursday.
Yep.
There is a library board meeting the third Thursday.
Yeah, which is gonna be a conflict for you too, isn't it? So we'll have to look at that. If we can, on the third week of the month, if we could
what time
do a
is it?
special meeting on a different date. It's at 7.
7.
Yeah.
So maybe we do that one earlier and get it over, just set it for,
Does that work?
Yeah.
for you?
yeah, maybe, I don't.
Yeah, I mean, Sharon and I actually have the same conflict that night, so.
Okay.
Um,
And maybe that week we make it earlier,
Hmm.
just so they can both, and
Yeah.
then you cap it at 7, they both have to go to the next meeting.
Yeah, I would set it for now. I would just set a set schedule and then if you can change the time as needed. And then it would just become a special meeting,
Yeah.
but just for now, I would just keep a 6 o'clock for each Thursday. But yeah, we could also talk with Jen. I don't know if she'd be willing, our library director, maybe if we could push back the start of the library meeting to 7:30. Perhaps you could get, you'd have a 90-minute meeting here or something. I don't know. Well, there's ways, we'll figure it out.
So starting January 2nd, 6 o'clock at night. Okay. All those in favor of that?
Aye.
Okay, so moved. All right, any requests from anybody? So we're gonna need to compile information. Bob will have a lot of that. Charles can be that person, more so probably on the ed spec stuff and everything that we need, right? Anything from that end on the facility side. Bob can help, I can help out with some of that.
Email me with requests. I mean, Charles had already sent out the majority of the sightline reports. If there's a printing issue and you need to have it in hard copy, please let us know. We can make packages for you. I'm sure we can take care of that here.
Can I make a suggestion that an agenda for our meeting next Thursday?
Yes,
Why don't we make that agenda, review and discuss the facility study committee report?
Right.
Review and discuss the sightlines report and fire facility analysis, right? So some people like you and Bob are very intimately familiar with those reports. You were
Right.
there when they were developed. I know the facility study report, I wrote it,
Right.
for the committee. But I think some people here, right, Chris, you might, though you could read it, I think it would be important for us to read and discuss it because there's a lot in, like, it's
Huge.
it's thick, and you start looking
30
through
pages.
all the links that are in it, what is a 16-page report is hundreds of pages. But if we made the point of that meeting, let's just talk about the condition of the facilities through the lived experiences of our teachers and facilities directors, as articulated also in the facility study from Fryer and Sightlines. And then let me just take you a walk through memory lane all the way back to 2001, which is kind of an update for some folks who are new, how we got here, right? What happened, and then what the original recommendations from the facility study committee were. And then I think it would be important for the committee to be aware of and discuss the myriad options. Like we had dozens of options, some of which have numbers attached to them, which of course would have to be updated. I think that would be a rich discussion, give you enough background in knowing where we've been to move forward. How people feeling about that? Or do you feel like, hey, I can just read those reports, I don't need to discuss them, I got it?
I think that's a good idea.
Yeah, and at some point, I honestly believe we should literally go line by line through every single one. We can have it. A lot of them are gonna be cut and dry. A lot of them, I don't think are gonna be an issue whatsoever. I think we're gonna have to just accept, and move on, but there's gonna be certain things that we can literally, I wanna go line by line when we finally do that, but I think it's also pretty important in the next meeting, we should at least all start thinking about a number that the taxpayers can handle. So it needs to be, multifaceted approach here. We can't. My goal at the end of this committee is we get this passed. And I think it's so important that we can at least all, say, hey, these are the parameters. Number one, we already know the time frame. I think we've already done an excellent job on that. We've got a chairman now. I think we also have to work backwards from a number standpoint. And it's probably more than some people want and less than others. But at the end of the day, we have to kind of work from some number and make this work. Because at the end of the day, I think all of our goals here is to get it passed one shot, one referendum, and be done with it. So I would like to also have a little discussion on that, and I'm not saying that's be a hard number, because I'll give you an example. If there's certain things that aren't due yet, which they weren't due. So this may be bonded in phases. We haven't talked about that yet, but if it is, then obviously the number could be a little higher. There's lots of ways to get there. I want to have a quick talk about that and get into it, and then let's work backwards, go through these numbers, figure out what's staying, what has to be done no matter what. I think these are going to be easy. A lot of them are going to be very easy, but that's how I see this. But
I think the public will like that too. If we're able to just make it more cut and dry. We don't want this isn't gonna happen, and just, like you said, cross it off the list. I think that will help our community understand, okay, we're looking at this for bathrooms, we're looking at this for this, we're doing this.
Yes.
If they hear us unpack it a little bit more, because that is a daunting document. I clicked it and I said, not today. So I agree. I think it's helpful for us to try to understand. I felt more before we were trying to put all of those pieces together, and all the legwork is done, and now it's our job to help everybody understand it.
yeah, and I think Bob and Carl will be instrumental in, going through these things. And the other thing that'll come out of that is if we do line by line and we go through this report, we're on camera. And if there is somebody that just absolutely thinks we're so far off or wrong, they're going to show up at the following meeting and say, look, and that's what I want to see. If we're getting something wrong, let's hear it from the public. And so that's what I'd like, but I think we can get there.
Can I make one suggestion too? That's exactly what I would think would be the perfect place for Mike Serrano to join.
Sure.
I think it would be a great idea.
Yes.
And Carl, if we set an agenda to review the facility study report, start talking about the facilities, the fire and the sight lines. Then on the second, I think the agenda, I would recommend that the agenda be have Mike Serrano from Fire Architects talk to us. Where he recommended, because they did have a conversation with him. Recommended that we start from that number, right? Being, I'm sure that what we want to do is understand how much of the local taxpayer money we can leverage against state reimbursement. Right? I mean, you're going to want to maximize whatever way we go. We're going to want to maximize what we can get out of Hartford, right? Going forward, so that if we could, if we can turn $1 into $2 or $1 into $1.20, that's what you're going to want Mike to talk to you about. I think because he knows better than that, because he's an architect, he works with Department of Administrative Services all the time. He can let you know what the general construction rate is, what you'd be eligible for if you just do capital improvements for roofs and ADA compliance and code and structural and all of those. I think he would help inform your thinking about how to, you said bang for the buck, get the most for every local dollar, matched at the highest percentage possible from the state, and what roads you should then consider if that's your goal.
So I agree, and we're going to need him to go through once we've made a decision. So I think the initial one, no, and I'll say why. I'll give you an example. Like currently, Valley View, Brownstone don't have generators or the transfer switches for the generators. But if we as a group say, look, we got to cut somewhere. What could we cut without affecting the actual facility and the children's education? I would start with something like that, for example. Obviously, the high school is a shelter. We need it up here. We have it up here. We meet all the codes. My point is, before we get to them best bang for buck and all that, there may be certain things like the auditorium seats at the Brownstone. Maybe they're fine for another 10 years. It's like $132,000, but there may be certain things that we can go through that we as a group just say, look, we could go without those, but we can't go without this. And then I agree with you, we get Fryer to tell us what's the biggest bang for river. But there may be certain things that we just say, look, that was a luxury, that was a want, not a need. The reality is this is a big number. We have to figure out exactly where we stand and what 100% needs to be done and what 100% doesn't need to be done. And we have a daunting task. There's going to have to be some give and take here. So I think it's just easier if there's going to be some hard yeses, hard no's on a lot of this stuff. I think it's better as a group, we just go through it and we just say, no, we're not wavering. We need AC in every classroom. The teachers need better climate. I can get behind that. I agree with that. So there's going to be certain things that you just can't waver on, but there's going to be certain things we can waver on. And I think we as a group should start identifying those before we try to get reimbursement of even 50%, because we may not want to spend any of it. That was my point. So thank you.
So we'll set that agenda next week to review sightlines, flyers. And, you know, if people have some time, maybe read up on it a little bit, get some questions going and what you think. So I've never done this before. So what do I do? Do I call who call Michelle or something? Tell her to
Help you with that, yeah.
Okay.
So we'll help you put the agenda together. So as chair, you can decide, and if anyone has, like as Ben just said, you know, I think those were great points. And so as you put that agenda together, if members of the committee would like an item added to the agenda or discussed, they can reach out to you as chair and we can make sure that gets on the agenda for the meeting. But yeah, you as chair help prepare that. But you know, we'll do the legwork. So you just reach out to Michelle. Michelle will assist with that.
Okay, and when? So for a meeting next Thursday, when do we have to have this agenda ready?
So 24 hours in advance, because it's a special meeting. But realistically, I would advise that no later than Monday, the 16th, you have the agenda, because it's good to get it online. And you want the town to be able to see it and to have the opportunity to attend the meeting if they so, you know, choose to do so. But yeah, I would advise by the 16th, the latest, but legally by 7 or 6 p.m. or what is it, 5 p.m. on the 18th.
Okay. Anybody have any other questions?
So, I'm assuming we have all of our contact information, it's all here, so we need to make sure that gets passed out. Is there any reason why we can't reach out to any of the members, either of Charles or Mike Serrano, between meetings if we have specific questions, or if we want to kind of dig into the numbers more, or are we gonna do it all in this meeting? If I had a question for Mike Serrano on something, and I wanted to ask it. Any reason that came?
I would reach out.
Putting it on, right?
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying, that's what I'm at.
Yeah, I would reach out. Yeah, because I would reach out to Charles and copy Carl if you had a specific question. You have to be careful for FOI purposes, and also you don't want to quorum if you're emailing. So it's not good for a lot of people who may be new on a committee. You don't want to just reply all and put your thoughts with whatever's going on. You save it for a meeting. Because if you're doing business via email, it constitutes an illegal meeting, and everything needs to be public, open, so that the public has a chance to see what's going on all of that.
That's what I wanted to ask.
Yeah, so it's good. So emails are good, but typically emails should only be used to set meeting, just to confirm, hey, everyone can meet. You know, if there's a time change, you can correspond, and then you can modify the agenda. But you wouldn't want to say, hey, you know, I really thought that section 5 of the sightlines, we got to really dive into that. Like, those are things you can email the chair, you know, or 3 of you, but as soon as, well, what's a quorum here? We have a 9, so it's a 5. So you know, you just want to be careful you don't email 5 or more, because that's a quorum.
All right, so next week we'll go through all of this stuff. Maybe get a list of questions that we might have, whether it's for Bob or for Mike. And then we can reach out to him, and prepare him ahead of time if he's coming to the meeting on the 2nd.
I would just strongly, I don't know the particulars of what Mike's agreed to, but I would hope that Mike, maybe you don't need him for the Thursday meeting, but you really should have him in the room. Because for the meetings going forward, because even if you having that as a resource, well, one, we're paying for it, so we want that resource. But two, just having that knowledge, because he's familiar with one, the Fryer report, because he worked on it or helped work on it, and two, the state reimbursement cannot be understated. I mean, it's very complicated, and Mike is he's got the experience with that. So it's great. We got some great experience with building, construction, schools. And Mike is probably the grant component, and you want to lean on that as well. So that my recommendation is to have Mike just sit in as much as possible.
Starting next week.
Well, I would say
Or the second.
Yeah, starting
Second.
Yeah.
If you make next week mostly like a history lesson, big picture discussion, and then, because from there, the details, I think I agree with you. Having really involved as of January 2nd, I think that would make the most sense.
And he must know, he knows this is coming. He's prepared. He's
aware.
They approved his payment. He's aware.
Right.
Okay. So we've set our dates. Everybody's good with that. Any public comment?
I think it's on.
I think it's on.
I think it's on.
It should be on.
Is it on? Probably for that.
Yeah, I think it's on.
Hello, Michael Hernandez, 71 Stewart Hill Road. Speaking as an aspect and a property owner here in Portland. Been a resident here for 50 years. Aside from my stint with the United States Navy, where I lived out in California for 4 years. I currently have a 10-year-old daughter, and I love my town. Now I'm here in front of you guys today of my profession. I'm employed by Environmental Services Company out of West Hartford, Connecticut. I've been employed there for 29 years, and now I'm a project manager. Now what we do there is building automation. We do security, life safety, energy solutions, audio visual, and mechanical services, which every one of those categories pertains to the schools here in Portland. And I believe we are contracted by some of the schools here in Portland. So we already have a foot in the door here. But I am speaking for my expertise in these categories. Now, I oversee 20 of 22 public schools in Stanford. And I'll give you a brief history of the past 5 years of what I've done for my company. We've done Danbury Ellsworth School, which was a renovate to new school. We've done Bethel Schools, Rockwell and Johnson School, renovate to new. And currently I'm working on a project here in Old Lyme, Connecticut, 3 schools down there, renovate to new, with all new HVAC systems, security, and audio visual. I just want to let you guys know that I am a resource for you guys. I'm in the town of Portland. I am easily available through email through the Board of Selectmen. And if there's anything with my expertise that could help you guys along, I'm more than willing. My phone will be on all the time for you guys. So I'm going to hand you out this card. You guys can reach me 24/7. Hopefully not after midnight. Just let you know I am available, and I want to help you guys along with this project. Okay, thank you guys.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Michael.
Like 11:30.
It's 12:30.
Thank you, guys.
Anybody else?
Beth Anderson, 44 West Cotton Hill Road. The first thing that I wanted to bring up is that it would be helpful, potentially for me, at least, to give a tour of the buildings at some point. There's a lot of residents in town that have probably not been through the buildings either ever or in recent years to understand the actual shape. And that may be one of the better ways to sell the project when it comes to the referendum. Let them know what it really looks like inside. My second thing that I wanted to bring up is that I was kind of shocked that you're not really, I didn't get the feeling you're considering closing the school next year. You had a plan in place if the referendum went through in November, you were gonna close the school. That was gonna be a done deal. It wouldn't be open in 2025. Why is that now so complicated? That I like you guys to consider and think about, is there a chance you could still close them? Because I think that was about $800,000 a year you will be saving. It's going to go a long way towards starting those capital improvements. So please keep that stuff in mind. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Beth.
Anybody else? I'm sorry.
Sean Manning, 2 Rodney Road. Just like to thank each and every one of you for joining this committee. And I appreciate your help with this. One of the resources you have that Ryan did not mention was the Land and Building Usage Committee. There's a pretty comprehensive report on some suggestions in possible usage or things that we could do with those buildings afterwards. If you decide you have to close one and it took an account, at that time, we were just charged to look at Gildersleeve and the Viz. But if you take some time or you have any questions about that, we had some very knowledgeable people that were on that committee that would be able to answer some questions for you. That's all I have.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr.
And let's see, and is there anyone online via Zoom? We have some people virtually. We ran out of faces in the audience here, so. Going once. Going twice, okay.
If there's nothing else, I would ask for a motion for adjournment.
I'll make a motion to adjourn. I'll second that.
Motion made and seconded for adjournment. All those in favor?
Hi.
Okay, see you next week.